Welcome. You're listening to the Renegade River Show, and my name is Mike Hewitt. And today we have on the air with us Jim Chiodo. Jim Chiodo is of the Ottawa County Patriots, fresh back from his Washington, D.C. trip, trying to learn a little bit about the debacle that is our IRS. Jim, welcome to the Renegade River Show.
Well, thank you for having me. Hello, Mike.
It's good to have you on, Jim. Hey, tell me just a handful of questions for the listeners that might not, just to kind of build a little bit of a foundation here, if I can. How long has the Ottawa County Patriots been in existence?
I would say about 4 years, and maybe a few beyond that. A little over 4 years.
Yeah, somewhere between 4 and 5 is what I was thinking. About how many members are there typically at a meeting?
I would say it varies between 70, 80. Sometimes we get 100. Sometimes we even get 200. But that would be the exception. Right,
and you've got probably about 200 people that perceive themselves as members, whether they're able to attend every meeting or not. Is that a correct statement?
It's probably closer to 300.
Okay, very good. Tell me this, just again with the foundation building here, what do you think is the primary function of the Ottawa County Patriots?
It is to build awareness, to educate the public on issues, to raise a passion about those issues, right? And to make our members more knowledgeable about what's going on. And that could be anything from knowing more about our Constitution to knowing more about pending legislation, how it may affect them one way or the other, and long-term things. And one of the things, I will say what we are not a political organization. Now, of course, that's going to be debated, and many people think we are. Naturally, the Tea Party is an arm of the Republican Party. Naturally, we're those people, those nasty people that getting in the way of an agenda to allow things happen in Congress. That is wrong.
And it's funny that you bring that up right then, because on my list was to ask you if the Ottawa County Patriots were a political organization, but along with that, and I don't know how whoever they are, I don't know how they'll measure it, but one of my measurements is does the OCP, does it endorse candidates or causes?
Absolutely, positively not. Now, as president, as past president, and I'll tell you about that in a moment, of the Ottawa County Patriots, I cannot say Ottawa County Patriots want you to vote for John Smith or Susie Q or whatever. But Jim Chiodo, private citizen, he can do whatever he wants. He can knock on doors. He can donate money if he had any. He can endorse, but he cannot do it with his Ottawa County Patriots hat on, and that has been the case ever since day one. Now, there has been some scrutiny of our website, which has some items out there that go back to 2010. Now, theoretically, our application to the IRS, and we'll get into that in a moment, is under the name Ottawa County Patriots. We weren't always called the Ottawa County Patriots. We were initially called the Holland-Zeeland Patriots. And some of that stuff is on the website from way back when, and it might give some inclination, or someone might stretch it to believe that we were endorsing, but that's not the case.
Well, it's important that was not the case. And frankly, for listeners, just as a little disclosure, I was fairly involved at the time, having chaired an organization up in Grand Haven, Spring Lake, Ferrysburg, or the Tri-City Tea Party. And so on occasion, our members would go back and forth with the Holland-Zeeland Patriots, and I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that they did not. Jim, tell me a little bit, just so listeners and I know, what is your... the way I understand it, you founded the organization, but what's your relationship with it now?
With the Ottawa County Patriots?
Yes, sir.
Well, originally people would say, what is my role? And I hated to say, I'm the head honcho, or I'm the big cheese, or any of that stuff, all right? But in 2011, we did have to, as part of the IRS situation, we did have to file incorporation papers. And on those incorporation papers, there had to be a president, a vice president, a secretary, and a treasury. And so we're filling the papers out, and they're putting my name down as president. And I said, "Oh, okay," And little did I realize that president meant also chief cook and bottle washer and everything else.
You didn't volunteer; you were drafted, Jim.
I would say that I don't think I had a choice.
That's right.
This last meeting, which was May, whatever the second Tuesday of this month was just a week and a half ago.
Right.
We had nominations for a new slate of officers, and a young man by the name of David Kroll. He's been active in the political system.
Jim? What's his name? David what?
Kroll. Kroll. David Kroll.
Okay.
And he has been active in our group. He's helped out. He's had lots of ideas. Most importantly, what he has that I don't have is youth. And believe me, I wish I had it. Especially, I'm up here on Mackinac Island for a conference, and I'm telling you, from one place to another, we're doing a lot of walking, and some of it's uphill, and I need one of these horses to drag me up the hill. So the bottom line is I endorsed, now here's an exception of endorsement, but I endorsed David wholeheartedly for the role of president, and now he holds that role, And I agreed to stay on as a board member at large. And of course, I'm uniquely qualified for the large part of that. And so I will stay on. I will help. I will participate. I will certainly be a good, strong participating member. And hopefully some of the ancillary chief cook and bottle washer tasks, I will help David to find some other people to take over those duties.
Very, very nice. I think when people think of the Tea Party, the part that they don't see, and I want to recognize you for your effort, they don't see a person like Jim Chiodo driving all over town, walking all over town, holding notes on corners, trying to build membership. So it didn't, and I say that because it's a compliment, Jim. That group where we're talking about 300 members wasn't the result of some magical spell and all of a sudden 300 people became members. You worked pretty darn hard, so I applaud your effort.
And here I thought it was just because I was charming, and all the ladies joined because of me.
Yeah, I'm not thinking that was it, Jim. I'm sorry to tell you. Tell me a little bit more important about all of that than this. You just came back from Washington, D.C. Tell me what, the way I understand it, you were down there at a meeting. You were joined by our Congressman Huizenga. A meeting was attended by some great people like Senator Rand Paul and Representative Bachmann. But that must have been a heck of a meeting. Tell me about it.
Well, meeting is the wrong word.
Okay.
Press conference is the correct word.
Okay.
Right? I was invited by Tea Party patriots, and Michelle Bachmann was part of the organization of this press conference. And when I walked up to something that's called the House Triangle, and it's a grassy area to the right of Capitol Hill, and I looked out at this grassy area, and I saw so many TV cameras, I thought sure that some athlete was going to declare his sexual preference. Because I've certainly never seen that kind of media attention on the Tea Party. And there had to be, I would say 20, 30, these fancy TV type cameras. And there were all kinds of people running around, and they'd stick a microphone in my face every time I, had a minute. And they were taking all kinds of pictures.
Jim, it sounds more like an episode of A Star Is Born than it does a Tea Party meeting.
Well, I'm going to tell you that I certainly wasn't the star, and there were so many people who had some really involved stories of how they were treated by the IRS, and many of them, some of them spoke, and Michelle talked a lot, as did Rand Paul, Mitch McConnell. Rand Paul and many, many other notable congressmen. I did not get to speak, and somebody told me they saw me on C-SPAN for half a second where the camera showed off to the left behind Michelle Bachmann.
Very, very nice.
And obviously the camera didn't break, so I go on. So
Jim, tell me what's the purpose of the trip to D.C.? What were you hoping to accomplish, and did you accomplish it?
The term, the best thing that I could say is awareness. Okay, and a press conference was indeed the purpose of that press conference was to tell the public the story. What really happened? What happened to these Tea Party and other conservative groups with the name Tea Party in their name, such as the city Tea Party, or in our case the Ottawa County Patriots, the word Patriot in our names. What happened when they applied for an IRS designation 501c3? Now, before I go further, let me tell your listeners, what is a 501c3 and what does it mean? Well, in our case, we have our meetings, and we rent a facility, and then we have some expenses and paperwork, and we have a website, and we have to pay a guy to have our website on his host computer or whatever it is, and we had to pay him a little bit to help set up this and that, and there's an annual fee we pay him. And if we're going to get some papers and print them up, we go to Staples or one of those kind of places and get some copies made. And I would say we have these expenses. And I would say that for the greatest amount of time, no personal expenses were ever paid. In fact, the way we fund ourselves is right out of our own wallets. People, we pass the hat at our meetings, and our people who are involved in stuff, myself included, if we have to go get something copied, well, it's only $20 or it's only $30, and they do add up. And our officers, myself included, receive zero compensation. So, if you wanted to net it out, what is my compensation for being a Tea Party leader? And that compensation is a negative figure. It costs me money to be what I'm doing. But I believe in it, and that's the reason that I'm willing to donate my time and my meager resources. And I do underscore meager. But so there have been other expenditures, especially trips to Lansing to attend meetings with other Tea Parties, to be part of something called the Michigan Conservative Political Action Committee. There's a meeting in Lansing called the Center Right. I myself, I'm a board member of an entity called Michigan Freedom to Work, and so I'm basically driving back and forth around the state. And of late, our board voted to pay some mileage or minor reimbursement for expenses for some of those activities that were the people that were going, they couldn't afford it. And
Jim,
my name in there too.
I'm trying to understand something here. How does the 501c3 help deal with those expenses?
Okay, let us say we have some rich guy. For instance, let's say we were to find some guy who is a large-scale firearms dealer in Spring Lake, and we wanted to ask him to donate $1 million to our Tea Party for
Jim, I don't think the 501c3 is going to help you in that circumstance.
Well, it would if that dealer had $1 million. But nevertheless, if that person, be his name Hewitt or DeVos or Prince or whatever, wanted, or even Joe Smith, okay, if he wanted to donate, since we are a not political organization, since we are an education and awareness organization, then that donation becomes tax deductible, and that's where it's attractive to be able to attract some funds from people to help our expenses and give them a tax write-off, so to speak, for that donation. Now, again, the issue was the event was primarily to tell the story, and by the way, some of the Tea Parties were not C3, but they were C4. Now, C4, what that does, it allows them to collect monies on behalf of a candidate and speak up in a more of a political fashion. I'm not sure of all the rules there on that end of it, but there were Tea Parties that had applied for both C3s and C4s. And most of the stories I heard were horrendous. People applied, and they would get a form, and they said, we want to know all of your membership, all of their telephone numbers, all of their emails. We want to know what was said at your meetings. We want the names of every speaker. We want transcripts. We want to know what books you've read. We want to know what your thoughts of this are. We want to know your children, what schools they go to. We want to know your donors. We want to know any businesses that donate to you. We want their EIN number. That's an employee identification number. And as many of the people that I spoke to, they did not provide that information. I certainly wouldn't have. I respect our membership list and their names. I would not have shared that.
Jim,
and neither did they. But
Jim,
some of these same people found themselves being audited. There was a man who had a small mom-and-pop tax service, and early in February, they came after him. He was a Tea Party leader. Early in February, they came after him and said, "You're going to be audited." And he said, "I can't do it now. This is my tax season." And they said, "Too bad. Shut your business down." And when you get that letter from the IRS that said, "Do this or do that," under penalty of perjury and the full weight and the big boogeyman of the IRS, it scares people into submission. So that in a nutshell is what happened. Now, our situation is a little bit different. In mid-2011, we applied for 501c3, and we never heard anything. We never heard back, no response, and it's about a $400 fee to submit this to the IRS, and they never cashed our check. So maybe, and this is I'll put quotes around this. Maybe our application was lost in the mail. But so what we did is we reapplied early in 2012, and lo and behold, we did get an acknowledgement, and they did cash our check. And that acknowledgement said, among other things, blah, 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 "You will hear from us in 90 days. Well, that's great. We can wait 90 days. And perhaps, giving them the benefit of the doubt, maybe they did lose the first application in the mail. Well, as time went by, we began to suspect that maybe they didn't lose our application in the mail.
Hey, Jim.
Maybe it was something a little bit more sinister.
Jim, hold that thought, Jim, because I've got to take us to a break.
Okay.
All right, we'll be right back, folks.
On street.
Be a survivor, not a statistic. Renegade River in Spring Lake has new and used handguns, hunting guns, sporting goods, and survival gear. Protect your rights and your freedom. Ask about their CPL classes. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake.
There's a conspiracy group that insists iHeartRadio is so advanced it could not have been created by humans. The ability to listen to 1,500 live radio stations and create custom playlists. They say we must have learned the technology from captured aliens housed in Area 51. So what if we did? Download the free iHeartRadio app at iHeartRadio.com. Now available on Toshiba Satellite Ultrabooks.
Here at the Kim Commando Show, no one knows the business of my business more than me. I believe that successful teamwork is the foundation of any successful business. When we work face-to-face, we work effectively. And when you have coworkers and clients spread around the world, coming together gets difficult. And that's why I use and recommend GoToMeeting with HD Faces. It's the powerful and simple way to meet online from wherever you are, whenever you need to connect. We all share the same screen. We're all on the same page. We work with documents in real time. With your computer's camera, GoToMeeting's HD video conferencing is like meeting in person. We all see each other face to face. Have your meeting anywhere on your Mac, PC, smartphone, or your iPad. Try GoToMeeting free for 30 days. Don't wait. For the special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com. Click on the Try It Free button and use promo code KIM. Be sure to use the promo code KIM. That's GoToMeeting.com. Meeting is believing.
Hi everyone, Jay Farner here with Quicken Loans. Today's mortgage rates are just about the lowest that we've ever experienced. But because these super low rates fluctuate, Quicken Loans has a great new way for you to find out what the current mortgage rate is for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage right this instant. Just pick up your mobile phone and text the word RATES to AMAZE. Text RATES to 26293 to see the latest mortgage rate on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Again, simply text RATES to AMAZE. That's RATES to 26293. At Quicken Loans, we always provide you with the latest technology designed to give you an amazing mortgage experience. Maybe that's why for 3 years in a row now, J.D. Power & Associates has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, text RATES to AMAZE 26293 and discover for yourself why Quicken Loans is engineered to amaze.
Standard text messaging rates apply. For J.D. Power & Associates award information, visit jdpower.com. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Be honest. Will owning a bigger TV help you get ahead in life? Will another pair of shoes make you a better person? Probably not. But what if you could speak another language? If acquiring a new language excites you more than acquiring more stuff, then wait till you hear this. As part of its biggest language learning event in history, Rosetta Stone is giving away demos of its powerful language learning software absolutely free. For your free demo, call 1-800-916-2562. And Rosetta Stone has made language learning more convenient than ever. Learn on your computer or iPad, then practice on the go with your smartphone or MP3 player without ever opening a book or memorizing boring vocabulary again. Do you want more stuff, or do you want a language that will last a lifetime? After all, it's all about priorities. To try a free demo of this powerful language learning software, call 1-800-916-2562. Again, get your free demo now. 1-800-916-2562. That's 1-800-916-2562.
Renegade River in Spring Lake wants to buy your used handguns and hunting guns. Renegade River, your hunting, camping, and survival store. Stop in and check out their new and used firearms, sporting goods, Army and Navy supplies, and survival gear. Downtown Spring Lake, next to the police station.
News Talk 1090 is the talk of Muskegon.
Well, welcome back. You're listening to the Renegade River Show, and my name is Mike Hewitt. And today we're on with Jim Chiodo of the Ottawa County Patriots. Welcome back, Jim.
Glad to be back, and good to talk with your audience. And I left off by talking about our beginning to think that it maybe was a little bit more sinister than our just being forgotten, so to speak. This letter that I alluded to from the IRS, signed by Lois Lerner, or stamped by her, if you will, and it said, you will hear from us in 90 days. Now, you will hear more. Does that mean we're going to be approved or disapproved? At least an acknowledgement, hello, goodbye, and or do something else. Anything would have been better than just hearing nothing. And that particular letter, over the course of more than a year, we received 3 of them. In between, we would call, we would never get through. Once in a great while, somebody would get to an actual body who didn't know anything and couldn't tell us anything, and then surprisingly, we would get another letter that said, quote, you will hear from us in 90 days. And it went on and on and on, and quite frankly, to this day, we know nothing. We are completely in the dark.
Jim, is Lois Lerner, she's the lady that's now in command of IRS's interaction with Marxist Care, correct?
No. She is one of Miller's underlings, and I'm not quite sure if she was asked to resign or not. I don't know the story there. I know that Miller was asked to resign, 2 weeks earlier than he was going to resign anyhow, but I'm not quite sure on Lois Lerner.
She apologized to you, Jim.
Correct. She apologized and to the world. I have yet to see a personal engraved apology, but the woman you're talking about is Sarah Ingram,
yes.
I think she has a middle name, but I don't know what that is. And she was transferred from being in charge of this special tax 501(c) identification group, and now she's in charge of the IRS function of the Obamacare. And that scares the bejeebers out of me. And the reason that scares me is that these people who've been audited and what have you, I don't care. They audit me. Go ahead, come and get my millions. Of course, they better find them first because I have no idea where they are. And but what really scares me is here I am. I'm in my late 60s, and this is not something that I don't normally go public with. But I was diagnosed with cancer about 15 months ago. Now, before you get all maudlin on me, my plan is to live much longer than when this cancer becomes a problem. In fact, I think I'll be in my late 90s and hopefully die with a smile on my face before the cancer gets bad. But things don't always go as planned. And in the meantime, if somebody is going to use a political motivation to target you for your taxes and your status, will they use the same political motivation to deny health care or to use your health care and your personal information for political gain? It just boggles me. It absolutely boggles me that this kind of stuff can be going on. And it just, like I said, it really, really upsets me. And the beauty of it is that my involvement and my passion for the Tea Party probably was fueled by my getting mad. And the madder they get me, the more fuel they're putting on the fire. And that's what they're doing by this IRS thing. And I think that what they're doing that to Tea Party people, and they're motivating Tea Party people all across the country, and hopefully reaching the people who I call the low information voters to understand that if an administration can do this for political purposes to one set of group of individuals, it can do it to another. And I don't care who is the president. I don't care what party is in office. It's wrong.
No question about it. It reminded me a little bit, Jim, while you were talking, when they were first debating over what I refer to as Marxist care, back when Sarah Palin was saying that they're going to have death panels, and Nancy Pelosi and the rest of her comrades were mocking Sarah Palin. There's no death panels. That's silly, they said. Well, the truth of it is that there is a death panel, and right now they're waiting on Speaker Bonner to go through the appointment process to get that panel put in place. And so then becomes, exactly to your point, the measure of what will that panel use as criteria to determine if you, at your age, Jim, will get cancer treatment. And that's a sad but a perfect example of what we should be afraid of, because so far everything that they said that they would not do, they are doing. It's right in our face.
Absolutely. If they say they're not going to do it, then you better believe they're going to do it.
Absolutely. Tell me on it, just trying to drill in a little bit, in terms of the Ottawa County Patriots not having that 501(c) recognition. Does that cause the Ottawa County Patriots damage financially, membership growth-wise?
Yes. For certain, that $1 million that Mike Hewitt was going to give us. But no, it's really it's difficult to tell. Had we been able to solicit more donations, who knows? If we'd been able to put on more programs, maybe more people would have come in. Maybe we have been able to spend more money on speakers or activities and so on. It is a complete unknown, and we continue to fund ourselves. Our members have dug into our own pockets for our own money. And we have a little money, but by no means are there any millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars there. Okay,
I think the rationale that the extreme left used, meaning Nancy Pelosi and the Obama, etc., was that when this 501(c) program, or the programs around that, were initially established, they did it in such a fashion that if you're an educational organization or a communication organization such as your group, having it offered legitimacy, and if you didn't have it, then you weren't legitimate. And so they got to set it up and craft it in such a fashion that then denying groups made them look illegitimate.
That is exactly the case. And I've heard from some of the people. We did have an actual admission from Lois Lerner and other people within the IRS that they definitely did target and they definitely did perhaps use some computer to search out the words Tea Party or Patriot. But then I hear other people saying, "Oh, it was a mistake." Well, let us say you're typing the word progressive, and perhaps you get your fingers on the wrong keys, and the word Patriot gets typed out. Now, if you can believe that you can make a typo and have progressive come into the word Patriot, then that might be a mistake, and it's stretching the imagination. But since they did not target any kind of progressive group, since Obama's half-brother got a 501c3, I believe it was, in less than 3 weeks, and other progressive organizations got their application very quickly, it completely dispels the nonsense of this reply that, well, we were busy and we were getting so many of this, and lots of organizations had their applications come under scrutiny because we just had too many and we couldn't get to them.
Yeah, certainly 3 weeks and 2 years
they could get to
different.
the ones with progressive names, but they couldn't get to the ones with, if you will, conservative names.
Tell me this, Jim. I see President Obama indicates that he wasn't aware of this IRS scandal until he'd heard it in the news, and then recently the Attorney General's office acknowledged that they were aware of it as of a month ago and did not tell anybody in the White House. Now, to me, that reeks of plausible deniability. But what do you think?
Well, I believe that's a stretch, but I'm going to give him some credibility, okay? And I'm going to use my analogy, all right? Let us say that you were Vince Lombardi, okay? And at halftime, your football team was down by a touchdown or something, and you went into the locker room and you gave them the win one for the Gipper speech. And your troops were fired up, and they went back out onto that football field with the intent that they're going to do whatever was necessary. That might mean tackling that guy with the bad Achilles tendon, tackle him by the knee, or do whatever is necessary to win at all costs. And so now let's take that analogy to President Obama. Every time he's behind a podium, every time he's on TV, behind a microphone, giving a commencement speech or giving whatever speech, which he does constantly, he is identifying the enemy that we must beat at all costs. And over again, he will say the Tea Party is the enemy. They're evil, conservative people. We have to beat them. And his loyal troops, among all of the agencies that are part of his administration, are hearing this win one for the Gipper speech, and they're doing whatever it takes to win. And that, targeting the Tea Parties and holding up their IRS and doing things that are illegal, it doesn't matter to them. It's do whatever it takes. And illegal or unethical, it's just as unethical for a football player to target an injury on a running back. And in fact, we just had that, was it St. Louis that had that issue here last year?
Right.
It's just not right.
Jim, I got to tell you, I love your analogy with Vince Lombardi. The only problem that I have with it, quite frankly, is that Vince Lombardi, if he went into the locker room and gave that speech, the enemy's the enemy and let's do whatever it takes, he wouldn't then put his head in a pillowcase and never look back to see if what he had tried to direct his minions to do, if they were doing it. I just don't believe that he spent the last 2 to 3 years absolutely removed from the results of what he himself directed to happen with that locker room speech.
In that regard, you're probably right. You're probably right. It's the analogy that I use. Perhaps the analogy.
I love the analogy. I just don't find a way to make Obama innocent. And I would like to think that the President of the United States, regardless of party, wouldn't seek to remove, frankly, your right to do what the progressive groups would do, or anybody else who has a legitimate cause and wants to educate and reach out could do. But that's just not the case. I believe he did everything that you said. He gave the speeches that directed the minions to do what they've done, but equally, I believe he followed up to make sure that those actions were taking place. And so now when he says, I didn't know, I think he's a bold-faced liar.
I tend to agree. And if he didn't know, he should have known. And but then again, you know, when you're out there golfing, I suppose there's a lot of things that don't come to your attention. And unless they're, you know, Reggie Love or somebody like that he seems to be up on. And when some athlete declares his sexuality, he gets a call from the president. He seems real knowledgeable on those kind of things. But
well, the upside to all of his vacations and his golf playing and all that is whenever he's gone, Liberty doesn't have to run as fast from him.
That is correct. But unfortunately, when he's not paying attention, when he's not doing the job that we, quote, hired him to do, and I say we loosely, but I say that's the United States voters, then things are happening. And one of the things perhaps the number one thing that we hired him to do was to keep us safe. And when he says he didn't know what was going on in Benghazi, when he says that you know, he had no knowledge of or had nothing to do with the troops not being rescued, I find that reprehensible. Reprehensible that the number one job of the President of the United States, which is to keep us safe, that he was not paying attention and he wasn't informed, and then come up with this nonsense about the video as a cover-up. And it was all during the election cycle, and that's all coming out too.
Yeah, he reminded me a little bit of the old series from the '60s, you know, with Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing.
Yeah, right. It was the Schultz. What was that name? The Stalag 13 or Stalag 17? Yeah. I know nothing.
Yeah, for a little chocolate bar, but I have no idea how he can know nothing about the major components of the executive branch. I got to tell you, I don't know which is worse, that he truly knows nothing or that he did this on purpose. I think both of those two possible scenarios are pretty darn scary, Jim.
Absolutely. His major skills are rabble-rousing. He's a community organizer, and his best foot is to go out there and rouse the people on the streets with the slick words and slogans and what have you, and to do it to a group of people who simply don't understand any better and who are willing to listen to his rhetoric and his smooth talking, sort of like beating the drum out on the battlefield to get people to move in a certain direction, and they're cannon fodder. And
no question about it, Jim. We've only got about a minute, a little over a minute left, and then I'm going to have to go to a break in preparation for Congressman Huizenga. But before we leave, I want to have you do me a favor and tell me what things I should not carry on my carry-on luggage at the airport.
Don't ever make the mistake of leaving a bullet, or in my case, 2 bullets, in a little briefcase that you happen to carry with some papers and pencils. I didn't know when they were in there. I had shown them to somebody to show them the difference between a hollow point and a full metal jacket. And, that was a bid of a stretch. The TSA found that coming back from Washington. Apparently they didn't catch it in Grand Rapids going away.
So what'd they do for you, Jim?
Well, you know, and this was already after they groped me. You know, they wanted all my information. I barely made my flight and so on. But listen, I wanted to say something that I have been called by so many news outlets in the last week, and I've done so many of these interviews, and I'm gonna put the Mike Hewitt Renegade River Show at the top of my list, and I thank you very, very much. And I want to say hello to Bill Huizenga, who will be on there, and I'm following up with Bill. We're mapping out a plan of attack. I don't know if the Ottawa County Patriots will join the ACLJ lawsuit. We have to talk with the board members and see what we're going to do. But I'm appreciative to Bill for his help.
Very nice. And Jim, we're appreciative of you. Thank you very, very much for being on the Renegade River Show.
Well, I'm glad to be on here anytime.
Thank you.
Country.
Thank you, Mike.
Renegade River in Spring Lake wants to buy your used handguns and hunting guns. Renegade River, your hunting, camping, and survival store. Stop in and check out their new and used firearms, sporting goods, Army and Navy supplies, and survival gear. Downtown Spring Lake, next to the police station.
Heads up. Radio Juniper is a new one-hour show every Wednesday at 9 a.m. on News Talk 1090 WKBZ. I think you'll like it, but Wednesday at 9 a.m. is when you watch People's Court. So, here's the solution. Turn the sound down on People's Court and turn the volume up on Radio Juniper. They sync together better than Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz. It's spooky. Google that reference if you need to, and I'll see you Wednesday on News Talk 1090 WKBZ.
If you forget to back up your computer files this week, you're not alone. With so many different things to do, it's easy to forget to back up. And when your computer crashes or your hard drive dies, what will you do? That's why I have Carbonite. Easily back up your computer files at work and at home without thinking about it. Carbonite backs up your computer files in the cloud for you, automatically and continually, away from danger, away from your next computer disaster. You'll never forget to back up again. Plus, with Carbonite, you can access your important documents and files on any computer or on your smartphone or iPad tablet with a free Carbonite app. It's easy to get started, takes just a few minutes. So when your computer crashes or your hard drive fails, and it will, you'll be confident knowing all your important documents and files are available with Carbonite. Get unlimited backup for your PC or Mac, just $59 a year. Start your free trial today. No credit card required. Use offer code Kim at Carbonite.com and get 2 free months with purchase. Carbonite.com, offer code Kim.
Listen up, ladies. Right now, Bare Minerals is inviting you to participate in a special nationwide giveaway of the mineral makeup everyone's talking about. That's right. We want to let every woman try Bare Minerals' revolutionary foundation and fall in love with their skin again. Just call 1-800-605-9867 to find out how. This is an exclusive radio-only offer you don't want to miss. You've probably heard about Bare Minerals Foundation. It was quoted in Glamour magazine as a magic eraser. Allure magazine, InStyle, and Elle magazines and leaders in beauty continue to rave about how Bare Minerals Foundation is naturally radiant and good for your skin. Now you can participate in our nationwide giveaway and see for yourself. Bare Minerals, makeup so pure you can sleep in it. Experience the foundation that started the makeup revolution. Participate in this special opportunity to try Bare Minerals Foundation risk-free, and we'll also send you a free gift set. Just call 1-800-605-9867 now. Hurry, you don't want to miss this exclusive radio offer. 1-800-605-9867.
Fox News Radio, I'm Karen McHugh. A prominent Democratic congressman thinks there may be more to the IRS scandal than meets the eye.
I don't think that gang in Cincinnati had the slightest clue as to find out whether or not people making contributions were involved in politics or whether they were involved in social welfare. Under the law, it's not just an exclusive thing. And people were abusing this law.
New York's Charlie Rangel. While a number of Republicans continue to call for an independent counsel to look into the scandal, Georgia's Tom Price says something more is needed.
What needs to be restored is trust.
Both men were on ABC's This Week. Midwesterners being forewarned about potential storm activity this afternoon.
It's going to be from around that Wichita line down towards Oklahoma City and later on in around the Kansas City area. That's kind of the bullseye today.
Fox meteorologist Rick Reichmuth. Fox News. We report. You decide.
Here is the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast. Mostly sunny today with a high of 79 with south winds at 5 to 10. It'll stay mostly clear this evening. Then isolated thunderstorms may develop late. A low around 65, southeast winds 5 to 10. Tomorrow variably cloudy with thunderstorms, especially in the afternoon. A few storms may be strong to severe tomorrow with a high of 78, south winds 10 to 20. And then for Tuesday, partly cloudy with scattered thunderstorms at a high of 73. News Talk 1090, the talk of Muskegon.
Be a survivor, not a statistic. Renegade River in Spring Lake has new and used handguns, hunting guns, sporting goods, and survival gear. Protect your rights and your freedom. Ask about their CPL classes. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake.
Country.
A Welcome back. You're listening to the Renegade River Show, and my name is Mike Hewitt. And while we're waiting for Congressman Huizenga to join us, just a couple things that I wanted to go down a little list of my own on. Things you may want to look up on the internet if you could. David Camp, our representative, U.S. representative from Michigan, has some hearings going on, or has had hearings going on in Washington that are on the IRS and the other scandals indirectly, but IRS certainly mostly. And along with that, if you have not listened to the comments that Mike Kelly made, Representative Mike Kelly, during the Ways and Means, the House Ways and Means hearing, I have to tell you, you've got to listen to them, because it was part of what's probably typically, first off, a really boring session. There's very few times in the House Ways and Means hearings do they have a committee or a hearing with a whole bunch of applause. And in this case, I think he got a standing room applause from the folks that were in the gallery, as he told the IRS exactly how the American people see what the IRS has been doing, much less this fearsome activity that they've been engaged in. And on that note, the fellow that he was talking to was the outgoing temporary leader of the IRS, the one that was already outgoing that President Obama indicated he'd fired, even though he's at the end of his contract. That was kind of about as lame as a president can get, to say I've fired him I'm in pursuit of accountability, without also saying, by the way, he was leaving a week later anyways. Just profound. But what was more profound is when that fellow was giving testimony, his attitude was very matter of fact, that this is within the right of the IRS. These are appropriate things to do. These actions were not illegal. And that's profound, that people that are the bureaucrats in our government think that the type of things that were done to Jim Chiodo's group that we just heard from, to think that those type of activities were what was supposed to happen, that it's okay, that it's not outside the confines of a limited and constitutional government, that those things, it's just fearsome that they think that's just a wonderful way to be. It's just amazing. But on the other hand, the good news of this is, as Jim Chiodo said, it's going to, when we get to the other side of this, it's going to hopefully cause some light to be shown in areas that wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity to have the American public become aware of. I've never been a real fan of the IRS, as you can imagine, but I would have never saw them as a political opponent, and this has caused me to see them very, very differently, and I think probably most of the listeners feel the same way. But when we've got people like Senator Rand Paul and Bachmann and others, and our own Bill Huizenga, that are getting involved in it, helping to cause some press conferences with people like Jim Chiodo, helping to ensure that we've got some hearings with the proper questions being asked. Unless we go through this process, then it would have just continued to go on. I mean, in Jim Chiodo's case, the Ottawa County Patriots, that went on for the better part of 2 years, I think Jim said, from the middle of 2011 through current. That's a long time to have had to have applied twice and still not have a resolve. When you compare it to President Obama's half brother, who got a 3-week approval. Those kind of things they're banana republic, they're third world nation. They're not the kind of traits that most Americans take pride in thinking of their country as being. Now, that's not the foundation we were certainly built on, to say this person can get it immediately and that person will get back to him if we can't find any way of justifying not doing it. And on the flip side, just to make sure that we're being fair, I keep hearing that there were circumstances in the past where the IRS also spotlighted ignore progressive organizations. Now, I've not seen any testimony that says that was a reality, but we hear it a lot. And I'd say the same in defense of them. Anytime the IRS or any other bureaucracy takes such a stand that they obstruct the path of our First Amendment is just absolutely an outrage. And keeping in mind Renegade River is a gun shop, and no, I'm not calling for armed resistance, but there's a reason we have a Second Amendment, because these things have to be defended. And we just can't stand back and say, boy, I wonder if this will ever change. We can't go back to toiling for taxes, as I call it, which is what work has become, and just pretend none of this matters, because it does matter. And if left unchecked, it would have only gotten worse. But the only way it's going to get better is with your involvement. What was that Arlen Meekoff said when he was on the show? To get involved, he urged that become a precinct delegate, run for local office, get involved in your county. By the way, join the Muskegon Tea Party, join the Ottawa County Patriot organization. Do something, because when they're talking to organizations that are just small groups of people like you and me and telling them they cannot have the same rights that Obama's half-brother can have, man, our country's went through a lot of bloodshed to stop that kind of thinking. And just to have it be here again, right in our face, and have the leader of the IRS say, it's not illegal, it's the way it is. Or worse, to say that, in his words, it was just incompetence, when he's the leader saying it's incompetence. I find that just profound. We have to react to it as a citizenry. We cannot just stand back and say it's going to be okay, because unless we stop it, it's not going to be okay. It reminds me of a guest that we had on here a few weeks ago with Zana Konechi, who talked about life in the Soviet Union and the things that the government, the powers that the government just assumed and bestowed upon itself. Am I comparing us to the Soviet Union? Maybe a little bit. When you sit and think about it, a two-party household, if both parents are still together, one of their entire wages, all of their toil goes to pay that family's tax burden. Well, they didn't use those terms in the Soviet Union, but in effect, that's what Mrs. Konechi described, was a system where bureaucracy controlled everything, where they made a very low income because the large share of their income was being absorbed by the state, the Soviet Union, to cover all of the things that they were being told they were getting for free. Now, we use different words, but in effect, what we're doing is the same thing. And the only way it's going to stop is if we do something about our public education system and do something about ourselves. And what I'm talking about is self-education, making yourself aware. Jim Chiodo said this is a good thing because it will cause people to be aware. But in my belief, first off, I agree with him, but in my belief structure, we've got it's a civic duty. It's not one of those things where you say, yeah, I think I take an interest in that. I think steering a republic, it's a civic duty to stay aware of it and to contact your congressman and to reach out to your state representative and to join an organization that follows your political direction. Again, I tell you, Arlen Meekoff talked about running for office. I just mentioned education. Who's on your school board? It's really, really easy to rag on the school boards or to rag on education in general till you go to the school board meeting and think, wow, they're very, very underattended. These are the cures that will help us point America in a new direction. And speaking of direction, I'll end today's show talking about something I've been working on for a little while, and you're going to hear more of it in future episodes of this show. And that is, I firmly believe that America's in trouble. And I believe that the only way to save America is to save our inner cities. And on that note, I believe the only way to save our inner cities is to save the American family. And I think right now the American family is in trouble. When we sit and look at the math that represents who's in our jails, what are they being accused of? It goes almost across the board. It goes to the result of single or no-parent homes. We have got to get our arms around the American family. Then we can save the cities. Then we can save America. But it's going to cause you to be involved. Folks, I will talk to you next Sunday. Have a great week. And thank you very much for listening.